Welcome to Encounter, where we celebrate putting faith into action and community leaders who live out compassion, grace, and love. We're a program of the Broome County Council of Churches that addresses food insecurity through CHOW and the Greater Good Grocery, provides hospital and jail ministry, builds wheelchair ramps, and assists neighbors with transportation and shopping services through Faith in Action volunteers. We invite you to the conversation. Encounter your neighbors as we learn to walk together in love and kindness.
Good morning, welcome to Encounter. I'm your host today, Joe Sellepack. I get to travel around to a lot of churches, and one of the things that has always impressed me about congregations and worship and within congregations is the amount of talent, the amount of artwork, the amount of creativity that kind of goes into worship and to the life of the church. One of the things that I've come in contact with here recently is Theater 313. They are a group of actors and as well as director who put on plays, and then they try to communicate truths from Scripture for the community. And so to help me explore the whole interaction between the Bible, theology, and as well as creativity and art that goes into being a director of plays are two people from Theater 313. We have the VP, right? Vice President, Tim Skinner. Welcome to Encounter today, Tim.
Thank you for having us.
And we have Leah McCoy, who is the founder, the executive director, the president, various hats that she wears, as well as as well as an author and other things. So, Leah, welcome to Encounter.
Thank you for having us.
So, how did this Theater 313? How did it come around, and what does the name signify? Because I'm pretty sure that 313 has something to do with something.
It does. We've actually been, our troop, some members of our troop have been together for over, I think, 13 years.
13 years. Yeah.
We all started in family ministries, ministering to elementary age kids and their families. And I personally did that for about 6 years, and then God called me out of that ministry, and I wasn't really sure exactly what that was going to entail, but I sat down with our pastoral staff at the time, and our lead pastor said, I've been looking for someone like you for 11 years, and I would like you to start a drama ministry.
Oh, okay.
Well, I looked at him like he had four heads because I'd never been a leader to that capacity. Don't tell anybody, but I've never been formally trained in theater, taken a couple classes in college about staging and those sorts of things, but I've never been professionally trained, so I felt very inadequate for the task that I knew was needed. But I prayed about it and thought, okay, God, just lead me in this, in the direction that I should go. And it became clear that the ministry had to be something that was different. It had to have a community element to it, a family element to it, not just going from one production to another production. It needed to be a network, a community of players, because understanding the power of the performing arts and the vulnerability and trust that goes alongside it, we needed to lay that foundation. So. Right. I hit the books and I tried to find curriculum for Christian theater or Christian performing arts, and I found nothing. So I did a deep dive, first of all, into the Bible, because I wanted to know exactly what God thought about creativity and what He says about art and performing arts. Is it in the Bible? And then I started researching traditional, actor training. There's so many books out there, oh my goodness. And then leadership training as well. And as we kind of started to launch forward year by year, we started to develop, actor training programs and leadership training programs. And our team went from about 15 to 150 in a matter of couple of years. And God was just working in and through the entire ministry. 7 years worth of work and effort and ups and downs and just the entire joy that comes with being a part of a ministry like that. God said, you're done. And it was a very confusing time for me because we were just launching forward. But it was clear, and I had to obey. And so I took some time. I stepped out of that ministry and took some time, took about 1.5 years off, and just rested in God and who he was. And he said, write a book. And I said, I don't know how to write a book. I can write plays, I can write musicals, I'm a singer-songwriter, but you want me to actually write a book. And so I sat down and the Holy Spirit worked through me and I wrote a book. It's actually called Revolutionary Theater. And it really is 30 years worth of experience, and it talks about the heart of how God sees the performing arts, a little bit of the history of how our culture has seen the performing arts. It talks about how to hone your gifts and training, and it also ends with the hope and the how to provide this ministry to churches and communities all over the world. So after I had finished the book, God led me to another place where my family and I were supposed to be. We thought we were moving, and so for a time, for about 6 months, we were planning, we were ready to go. And he made it evidently clear that that was not what we were supposed to do, that we weren't finished here. And as I prayed through that, I realized that when he said we are not finished, he meant our team, the dramatic arts team. So I didn't have a theater in my back pocket, so I thought, like, okay, God, again, it's that obedience, that faith level of saying, okay, I don't know where we're going, but we grouped up and I contacted some of the people that I hadn't actually spoken with in over 1.5 years and said, there's something in my heart. I don't know what God's doing, but can we just get together and pray and just be together again and see what God's going to do, with this. Maybe he won't do anything. I don't know. Well, 1 year later, we have become a 501c3 not-for-profit corporation. We're the newest Christian theater company in Broome County. We produced our very first play back in October. Our team has again doubled, and we are just getting started. It's just amazing. I really do consider this past year a year of miracles. So we're excited because of the direction that we're going. So that's kind of like our story of how we came to be.
And so Tim, what is 313? What does it signify?
Theater 313, so there are 5 verses that are all revolved around chapter 3, verse 13. And they all kind of speak to creativity and God's presence and sending his message out there in this wonderful creative way. And so it was like, 313, there's a pattern here, 313, 313, as we were, as a group, kind of going through.
Which books?
There's 2 Thessalonians, there's James, Proverbs, Philippians, and Exodus.
Oh, okay.
Exodus is the only one that's 31:3, but it still counts because it's 3:13.
Yeah, we kind of slipped it in there.
Yeah, but those 5.
All right.
So that's why it's 3:13.
And so the interplay between creativity and human interaction and our ability to kind of work with God in that way. Well, how do you find that in the performing arts?
I think it's wonderful. It goes right back to the very beginning. In the beginning, God created. So I think it's kind of within us to want to create something and put something together that really can communicate and say something to people and resonate. And that's where the performing arts has been amazing with our group, is just kind of getting together and finding a story that people might not completely 100% know, but there's elements of it that they might resonate with, like, I've been in that situation, and maybe they didn't, have the situation work out the way that the story did, but they kind of maybe get a little advice along the way too, or get drawn in and have a reaction, and have it communicate.
So Tim, how did you get involved in acting?
I got involved in acting, if you go way, way back, technically it's 6 months old. I was a baby for a live nativity. Knew all my lines. It was wonderful. Probably the only time. But I got in actually through my uncle, my family.
Oh, okay.
My uncle was a superintendent for a Sunday school, and once a month they would put on a little program that the church before Sunday school would kind of get together, and they put their own little unique spin on things. So it was like, oh, this is fun. I wonder if I can do it. And then a cousin of mine was directing a musical at that church, and I jumped in, and one thing led to another, and
Here
many
you are.
years later, I just fell in love with it, and it's something that resonated with me. It's like, oh, I can get up here and I can do something like this.
This is very cool. So as far as we have some clips. So some clips of some of the show that you did in October. Is there something that you want to say in order to set the groundwork for these?
Yeah, so it's called Forever Kids, and Forever Kids is a free event that we are providing for families. It's really hard to find wholesome entertainment these days, especially with families or for families. So we created a program that is based off of a children's book that I wrote called The Ever Tree, and so these are clips from that production. That we just did it back in February.
And all the books that you're referencing, you can find them on Amazon,
Yeah,
correct?
this is the Evertree book.
The Evertree book.
Yep, and book 2 is in process right now. I'm working on it, so I'm excited to bring that to the community as well.
All right, very good. So let's go ahead and watch the first clip.
Thank God you're all right.
Excuse me, what are you doing?
I'm just glad you're okay. I've never lost a troop member before. You were there and then poof! You weren't.
Jackson, I'm glad you're okay.
So we have a girl tackling a guy, and she obviously has a backpack on, and the guy is a little bit surprised that he's being tackled, and she's got a British accent, right? And
Australian,
Australian
yeah.
accent.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we have this thing going on. What is that? What part does that play in this story?
So we have the Australian outback character is Tracy N. Navigator. Tracy kind of Tracy kind of serves as the narrator of the story that's going on, to kind of fill in some of the areas from the book that we originated the play from, and that wasn't supposed to happen.
No.
It was supposed to be a hug, and the hug turned into a tackle, and it's just one of those wonderful moments where the actors realize, like, oh, that wasn't supposed to happen, but you know what? We're going to keep rolling with it and keep telling the story. And even backstage, because it's one of those wonderful, like, backstage stories. Like, you get backstage, and some of us are back there, and you hear this rumble and this roar of laughter. It's like, what just happened? Like, what happened? And Jackson, who plays the lead, who was the person being tackled, comes back, and his eyes are like, I kind of got tackled.
They did a brilliant job. They just kept going, totally professional about it. But it's definitely one of the highlight moments, I think, of it. Our little actress who played Tracy in Navigator was mortified, but she was such a good sport about the whole thing. So it was a great moment.
So these moments of improvisation happen a lot when you're acting, correct?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And how do you coach people through that?
We do a lot of training with improv and character backstories and development and your given circumstances of the script. And we really do love to embrace what the actors think about their own character. I love writing originals and producing originals because whatever we start with, whatever I hand them at the beginning in the first rehearsal, it changes over time. I've thrown scenes out and rewritten new ones. So it really is this collective thing that happens. So it allows the actor to really invest in their character. And so with improv training, we kind of just give them these defined lines and let them roll with it and play with it. And through that, we found that they have a lot more confidence moving forward, and it allows them to have the tools so that when something like that happens, they instantly know how their character would react, instead of, oh my goodness, I did something wrong, I'm now going to walk that line of embarrassment. So we do a lot of improv training.
Yeah, it would seem that, so the issue isn't that mistakes happen. Will a mistake happen? It's mistakes happen all the time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And how we deal with it and how we interact with it is what creates it's the genius of theater, if you ask me. It's the at those moments it becomes you're aware of the fact that you're a part of a story that involves other human beings too. And anyway, what
and
do you
and you're communicating that emotion, like Leah says in her book. It's not just a rote, like, I will say my line and I will deliver my line. When you're really invested in it and invested in the character, that's going to shine through. And even in those moments where there might be like a hiccup, there's going to be something that just, you stay within your character and you act as though you are within that story, within that scene. And usually you find a way to get back around to where you need to be.
I also think it's like trust and vulnerability go hand in hand with what we do on a stage, and that's why it's so important to really invest in your team and your actors and your actresses, because if they trust you, those moments that happen that they go backstage and they're like, oh goodness, I didn't do it the way that I wanted to do it. It's okay, because they're surrounded by a community of people that they trust, that they love, that they respect. So that definitely plays part of it.
My guests today are Tim Skinner and Leah McCoy from Theater 313, and we're talking about creativity, the arts, and one of their plays that they have that they produced in October that involved some youth and children within the theater. So let's watch another one of those clips.
Oh, audience, help me, please. And 1, and 2, and 3, plunge. Oh, well, look at the wonderful prize we've got here. Oh, welly, who got the jelly? Oh, yikes. We need some wipes.
What was happening within that sketch?
So we had a game show during intermission to try to get the kids up and moving. It's a family-friendly production, but with kids, you got to keep adding those elements of surprise. And so we had a game. It was called Don't Be Jelly, and it was about jealousy, because that was the theme of our production, was about jealousy and sibling rivalry and how God says to handle it. And so our host was doing the game, and you had to pick which bucket, and then of course one of them got the prize. And so the lesson to be learned was, how do you respond when you might be a little jealous about someone getting something that you want. So it was really fun. Actually, our first night, we were supposed to pick 3 kids, and 5 ended up on the stage. We don't really know how they all got up there, but it was really interesting. Again, one of those testaments to improv and our host just
Rolled with it.
Yep, and she did a great job.
So this is all based off of a book.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And the theme of jealousy is from a scripture that you all had indicated earlier when we were talking about the show. You want to fill folks in on what the story is and how it got played out that way? Yeah,
sure. So the story is based off of the story of Judah, so Joseph's brother, and it's his perspective.
He's the oldest brother too.
He's one of the
correct?
oldest.
Yes.
Yeah. I think he's the second oldest.
Second oldest.
Yeah,
I
I
think.
think
Okay.
Reuben was the oldest.
Reuben was the oldest.
So it's his perspective of Joseph, them basically selling Joseph to Egypt. So I took that story, and I love that story because it's one of those stories that you don't think about the perspective of one of the brothers, but if you really read and look closely to the scripture, it really does show that he battled with the decision that his brothers made. And I think it really did kind of wreck his soul a little, and it forced him to actually leave. He left for a time and ended up coming back, but it was really hard for him. So I kind of tapped into that idea when I was thinking about the storyline of, Jackson and Jilly, and how Jackson always looks forward to his camping trip with his grandpa once a year. It's just something that they do. And then they realized that Jilly was being invited, and so he has a really hard time with it. So they go off into the woods. They end up getting into a colossal fight. She goes running into the woods. He goes in after her, and he ends up getting lost and stumbling upon the Evertree. And in discovering the Evertree, he has a moment where Judah comes out of the Evertree, and Judah tells him his story, and it all relates to love is patient and love is kind.
And so let's watch another clip as we work our way through this.
I navigated through thick, rough terrain. I scaled the tallest rock faces you can imagine. And I swam in shark-infested waters just to be here.
Wow. That is commitment to this program.
Who are you? Oh, right, my name is Tracy N. Navigator, and I'm your trail guide for this evening.
Tracy N. Navigator?
Yeah.
As in Tracy N. Navigator?
Yes.
What's the N stand for?
Nothing.
Nothing.
Nothing at all.
So Tim, we have a person talking about Tracy and Navigator.
And Navigator, yeah. And it is definitely a playoff of Navigator.
Well, yeah, you can kind of tell that.
Yeah,
so,
a little bit.
Yeah, so that theater's known for that, right?
Uh-huh.
So you want to talk a little bit about that aspect of it, or?
Sure.
It was his idea.
Thank you. How that came about was we were we knew we had to have like a narrator character as Leah was writing this and putting it together. And it was like, well, what if we come up with, and we kicked around a couple different names, like Travis or Tracy, and we thought, okay, we like that old Crocodile Hunter type show, take that element, that's good. And then it's like, all right, what do we use for a last name? And it really came about just kind of as a joke. I think I sent a text message to you that was like, how about it's N Navigator? And she said, what does the N stand for? I'm like, nothing. Nothing at all.
And it's stuck.
And it's like, oh, that's good.
That's really cool.
It really is a collective process with all of us. So
yeah, and so that becomes part of the script then.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah, and what's great is for Tracy, Tracy wrote the character of Tracy. The actress wrote a little backstory, and it was so good that there were even elements of that Leah went back and went, oh yeah, that's good. Can we reconstruct the scene like this and put this element in? And it totally added more breadth to the character than just and now let's check in with, what's happening with Jackson and turn, it really helped kind of develop that character and make it a much more interactive part of and an important part of the story.
And so when you go about telling a story like this one, Joseph and his brothers, and you have a biblical story, and there is a point to what you were trying to accomplish with it. Of course, if you were to look at the story of Joseph kind of theologically and the rest of it, you have Joseph being one of the youngest brothers, and you have Judah being one of the oldest brothers, and this conflict that kind of goes within all of Scripture. So you have Jacob and Esau, you have Cain and Abel. You can kind of see the relationship play itself out in terms of that. How do you go about constructing a story based off of that, and then making it come alive?
I do a lot of research. I really love the cultural element, because as much as there's so many stories within the Bible that haven't been told just based off of a perspective. And so I love to really dive into the culture and the historical, what it was like back then historically. So I start with that. What were their traditions? What did they? What were their values and their morals that are different from maybe what our religion or whatever religion that you are affiliated with, and then from there you add that human emotion to it. So that what if, like, how would you feel if this happened? So I really do kind of pull in the emotion of every element, and then I just verbalize it. I love words. I'm a very wordy person. I like big words. So that kind of helps. So when you take a story, you have to add that humanity to it. So I love reading other people's stories of, how they, their perspective of it. So it's a lot of research.
So let's watch another clip.
See, the Evertree appears whenever, however, and to whoever desperately seeks the truth.
The Evertree?
Yes, the Evertree was planted before the dawn of time in a place that's not a place, and in a land that's not a land. It is a living record of every event since God separated light from darkness.
Well, that's kind of an interesting idea too, is that the Evertree is something that we are dealing with even today, as we're sitting here. Tell us the story behind that.
So I was 19 years old when I wrote my very first musical, and it was this story. It was out of all of the musicals that I've written, I think I've written, I want to say 8. This particular one was never really produced, never really thought through. And then when we started to get back around together, this story kind of came back around, and I again dove kind of back into it and reevaluated it from an adult perspective than as opposed to the teenage perspective. And God just poured out of me this idea of, and the symbolism behind the tree, the tree of life, and that we do have a connection to all of these stories, maybe not in a physical person way, but we do have a connection through the Bible and the stories, and I wanted to bring that to life for kids.
So Tim, if people want to get in touch with Theater 313 and any of our audience, how could they get in touch with you?
So they can get in touch through our website, theater313.com, and there's a volunteer page, so if you want to help out, and we're looking for all types. So if being on stage isn't your thing, that's okay, because we have all sorts of different roles. People to help us with our costumes, with our lighting, with our sound, maybe help greeting people as they come in the doors and getting them seated. So there's really all sorts of areas that you can come in and help out and plug in.
And on the Theater 313, will you find a record of all the shows that are coming up and all that kind of thing?
Yes, yeah, we're going to be having actually a murder mystery dinner that we're going to be hosting here in April, and you'll get more information about that as well.
All right, thank you. And I want to thank Tim Skinner and Leah McCoy for being on and talking about Theater 313. And for all of you, I hope that you will have a great Sunday. Be kind and generous to each other.